guys, welcome to the trainer feed. My name is David Bravo. With me, I have Jacques Delageur.
What's up, Babylon?
And Angel's not with us, unfortunately. He's not feeling great, so he's taking a little bit of a time off. So,
He's a hard worker. He's got to
yeah.
rest up, but he'll be back with us soon. We miss you, Angel. All right, Peter. Anyway.
All right. Well, we're going to follow up on our last episode on the most Googled fitness questions. Because Google basically our doctor, and whenever I have something going on, we ask Google what it is.
First line of defense too.
Yeah, I remember. So disclosure, I had shingles once, or a very very minor case of it. I was so freaked out. I'm like, how can I have it if I was 27, I think, or 26. And I was like, I Googled everything. I'm like, what is this? Because I thought it was bed bugs, and I was freaking out.
Oh, no.
And then, of course, you get all these things. It's like, you may have skin cancer. You may have this. And just don't ask Google for medical diagnosis. Just go to the doctor. Anyway, so let's start with the first question. What are the best diets to follow? What do you think?
I think there are none because it's case by case specific. I think what works for you, David,
so you would say that
it
depends?
It depends. It's the common answer here. So it really does depend. I think if someone wants to go vegan, but they're not tolerable to soy products, or someone wants to have meat, but they can't, the red meat is going to cause them issues. I mean, there's other meats to have, but it really just depends on the person, and someone can be gluten intolerant, so they can't have particular carbs. It really depends. I think the best diet is your diet with the idea that you've modified or taken something from every lesson you've learned and made it your own. I don't like the word diet either, because diet implies, well, let's define it a little bit here. So diet, let's use it in the term as diet is what you typically eat. Okay. So when someone says I'm going on a diet, I'm not crazy about that, because it sounds as though you're making modifications short term for a short term gain. Yes, you make change in the short term, but just as that change is short term, I think you usually own it short term also. So I think the best diets are the ones that are long lasting, long term, the ones that you make minor modifications as you go and you sustain it. So, for example, if you're someone who likes chocolate, like myself, I think it's important that you have it on a frequent basis, frequent meaning once a week, maybe twice, but it's manageable.
3 times a week.
3 times a week if you're a savage.
Maybe 4.
no, more 4. But it also depends how much chocolate you're having, right? So that could be the other thing. If you're having a little piece, or having huge bars. So, but for the rest of my life, if I have it once a week, I'm good. That's golden. But if you were to have it to have it for 4 months, and then you go on this binge where you just have it every single day, all day, you have to think what's practical long term. What are your thoughts about this, David?
I think as well, we got to define diet as a lifestyle. Mm-hmm. I think I don't want to take the word diet completely away from people, because it is such a normalized term. But if you're using diet as a short-term thing, like a 3-day juice cleanse or 3-day tea cleanse, because apparently your liver doesn't work. It has to. It's just, if you're using diet as your habit. So if I'm gonna say, hey, Jacques, I'm gonna go on a diet, I probably won't use that word, but if I were to use that word, it would mean I'm going to change some habits.
Right.
I'm going to change some nutritional habits for long term. For example, if it's, let's say soda, growing up, loved it, Coke, Pepsi, Sprite, whatever. A little lifestyle change would be, instead of buying 2-liter bottles every week from the grocery store, buy a can or 2. You're kind of forced to limit the amount you're having, and then later on maybe you could ultimately eliminate it completely, or have it once in a while. If you go to a fancy restaurant or whatever, or if you go out, go to a game,
the occasion,
go to a stadium, fine, have a little bit. But the lifestyle habit that you're going to be changing is from buying the 2 liter sodas to just buying 2 cans.
Right. And
You
I
know.
think that there's another habit you can time with that as well. If you you strive for that fullness from the desire of drinking and liquids such as a soda, something I commonly suggest when drinking alcohol, particularly for every glass of wine, drink a glass of water. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not saying you can't drink your wine. I'm saying drink your wine. I'm confident when I tell clients this, they will drink less wine. It's not foolproof. I'm confident that they'll feel a little fuller and they're okay. So you might, okay. So instead of having 3 glasses of wine, you have 1.5 glasses of wine because you filled up on the water. I never said don't have your wine. I said you can have it, but here's the deal: we're gonna increase our water intake, and it's not even. You might even find yourself you're still having 3 glasses of wine, but I'm confident you stop at 3, or you only had 2.5. And if you've decreased your portion serving by a sixth, okay, boom, it's improvement there. And I think, like what you said, David, instead of having the 2 liters, have the 2 cans. So we're not saying you can't have any. We're just going to modify the dosage because I think it is important to keep a little bit of what you have pleasure in either eating or drinking. I think that's important. I think that's very pivotal for you to stay successful on this journey of staying in the right direction,
Yeah.
long-term habits. That's when clients ask me, "Oh, I shouldn't eat." I get really pissed now when they say, "Oh, I cut out carbs." I want to slap the shit out of people when I hear that.
Oh, no.
What's
Disclaimer:
wrong with you?
Jacques
What stop?
will
This
not
is that's like
slap
20 years
anyone.
old. I'm not slapping anyone, but I want to. And no, I would never do anything to my. I love all my clients, but just people in general. When people say that, I'm like, no, like have carbs, And I have an example where my friend, you remember Carmen we had in the podcast like a year ago,
Yeah.
dude. She don't mind me saying this. She told me maybe a year or two ago when she made changes to her nutrition and she was eating way more carbs than ever. Dude, she's in the best shape of her life. And whenever people ask her what's the secret, she says, "I you don't know how many carbs I eat." They're like, "Oh no, that can't be why." Like they don't believe her. And she
But
tells
yeah.
me, she shows me, but it's hard to believe it. But she tells me, she goes, "Wow, I've never eaten this many carbs in my life." And she's in the best shape ever.
Yeah, I think it has to do with.
And she's in her 40s too,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
FYI. She's
I
not like
mean,
she's 21.
I think it has to do with how you're presenting it to somebody. Like I think if you present it as numbers, so carbs have 4 grams of calories. No, a gram of carb has 4.
5.
A gram of fat has 9, and a gram of protein has 4 as well calories. So if you're eating a lot more carbs, and let's say you're minimizing on the fat, then you're kind of able to ratio it out or balance it out where you're still going to have a good amount of calories, but you're going to use the carbs in a more performance type way.
You
You
get
know
more energy out of it.
exactly.
You
You'll
get
be
more
able to
energy
go
out of it.
harder, lift heavier, get stronger, and with that, the muscle mass will come. You'll burn more calories with that extra muscle because your body needs to maintain it, and therefore you'll have better body comp. And then that's when the whole thing about like, well, what's the best diet to follow? Having a steady, supply of carbs and proteins, having your good fats, and getting it all in surrounding your workout is great because you'll be able to use it efficiently.
Mm.
And I'm a proponent of, like you said earlier, taking bits and pieces of a lot of these uh, diets, quote unquote, and making them into your lifestyle. For example, if paleo, let's say paleo, I'm not the biggest fan, but I'm also not the biggest,
Hate it.
criticizer of it. If you like paleo, then what? Have more minimally processed foods. Great. Get all of that in, get your veggies and get your good meats. If you're a fan of what's another, like veganism, if you're a vegan or if you're something that wants to dabble into veganism, then maybe just really load up your plate with your veggies and your grains and things like that, and your protein sources.
You
um
have to, yeah, you have to do a bit more digging with
yeah.
vegan, but I think all to say that even if you took a page out of the vegan book, or if you took a page out of the keto book, or I'm struggling to think of some on top of my. There was one called a Nukem diet. My friend, do you know that one? This
Never
is
heard of
10
them.
years ago, and it pretty much just sounded as though it was just purely chicken every meal. Didn't sound very desirable. But I think if you can take a page out of every sort of diet, that's your best approach. Whether it's having um various protein sources, not just animal, whether it be plant as well, or whether it be, as you said, I think limiting your processed foods period is your best bet. I think whenever I have these conversations with clients and they say, oh, is this good, is this bad, and firstly, we've had guests that have told us to not say food being good or bad, and just, I think at the end of the week or at the end of the day, if you can look at everything you've eaten, and there's something to be said for tracking too, which I've started doing, and it's like really opened my eyes to how much I was overeating for one. But if you can see, okay, 80 to 90% of the foods I ate were as clean. I want to say clean, I mean as close to the original source as possible, then you're doing a good job. If you think
you
that's
eat mold anyway, so
yeah, it's only when it's frozen, but yeah, there's some smoothies, which I haven't done in a while, so don't hate on me. Hey, I still haven't got COVID. Maybe that's why I still haven't got COVID. So I'm
you
eating
might
moldy
as well
bread.
just eat dirt.
Yeah, so moldy food. Anyway, moldy food is cure for COVID. Anyway, uh, I think going with what and also when clients ask me and they say, "Oh, is that good? Is that bad?" I I want I never want a client to feel. You never want your clients to feel as though you're judging them or saying, "Oh, you're terrible. You ate this. I forget." Oh, and they say, "Oh, don't hate me. I ate this." I say, "I'm not going to hate on you. I want you to enjoy life. I want you to have the treats. I want you to have the indulgences. But as long as it's within reason, there's no, as you mentioned, if you go to a game, when we went to the Yankees game the other week, if we had a beer we don't normally drink, or we had an extra serving of fries we don't normally have, that's how often we go to the game? We go once every so often. So again, if it's in that circumstance where it's not a common occurrence of you getting that, that's not going to kill you, man. Like if you're at 500 to 1,000 calories over your regular serving a day,
That's
it's one
fine.
day. Yeah, exactly. It's fine.
It's
You
fine if you do
can't
that. You gotta look
stress
at it
about it.
in one like thing. If you, in a week you're still within whatever range you set yourself,
You're
then
there.
you'll have a day where you'll go in excess. That happens, and it's fine. Just trying to get again back to consistency.
Consistency, staying as close to that consistency line as possible. So let's pick up on the second
All right.
question.
Second question: can you work out and gain weight?
Yes. And let's be real here. The reason being, the most likely reason is being what? Because muscle weighs more than fat.
Um, well, it
That's what
depends.
people. But if you see, how to put it, so if you go in the in body, and we spoke about dropping weights, okay, but you've lost fat, you've gained more muscle than the fat you lost. So yes, your weight has, in theory, you've in theory gained more weight, but it's not what we would consider the weight that we want to get rid of. You
Yeah,
know,
it it
you
it's very situational, you know,
absolutely.
and it comes down to again your diet or your eating habits. Where if you're working out, crushing it, but then you're overeating, then you may not lose that weight. It just
And
sucks.
that also goes for something we mentioned in a previous episode. If you're eating too little,
Hmm.
your body, yeah, I think you, as you said, it's case by case specific, but I believe that you can't get too fixated on that number. And I think sometimes I remember I have this client, I still train her, and she didn't want to do any of the M body, nothing to do with that. And I thought, wow, that's a very rare case. And I absolutely love that approach because she just wants to move well and feel good. And it's not to detract or take any accountability off the trainer, but you can just focus on improving movements and you can't worry about, did you work hard enough because you have to burn this many calories? We spoke about wanting to burn how many calories in a workout or exercises, but here, think about, okay, did you leave today learning a pattern that might help you have a better golf swing? Did you leave here that may improve your backhand when you play tennis? Did you learn a pattern that may help you play with your grandchildren? If you have clients like that, or those conversations, those sessions, those really hold a lot more weight, I think. And those can be sometimes harder to sell because it's not going to be overnight, or you don't always see it. It's more about the feeling of it. I think it's hard to demonstrate feel. Unless, as you mentioned, it's a performance-based one where in golf, I love when you introduce a client to Viper, and whether it be a hinge, whether it be like some sort of shuffle or lateral pattern with it, and now they feel they got that swing is just so much better. I love hearing that, because for them, the reason they come to you is to get better at life, to get better at moving. And if you provide it, boom, that's the solution right there. So I think if you get those scenarios where then those are ideal, right? Where they're not fixated on that number. But I honestly find it very hard still to have these conversations with, don't worry about that number. And I joked with a client, I said, be careful, we don't want you looking like a skeleton. And like, do I look like a skeleton? I said, no, but I don't want you looking like one. So I want to make sure you eat. What again? And then you have to think about the risk versus reward, or okay, you want to weigh this way, but you're not eating anything. Do you even feel happy? Or what is that expression? Nothing looks good as skinny feels, or something.
I don't
Do you
know. I
know
haven't
that?
heard that one.
I think it's an old saying that it's not even doesn't feel that good, but it's just looking that good is what people are satisfied with. So, and also I'll wrap up my point after this as well is, we forget that our body sat down compared to standing up. Our builds look different. We look on when we're hunched over, we're not flexed. Our abs don't look like they're engaged, or our bodies look smaller, or we look rounder. We don't look as tight. Compared to, and if you did an hour of lifting, you're right there. That post pump is the best your body will look. You can't that then compare it to say a day where you really indulge and it's the end of the night and you've just consumed everything, which you're entitled to do, entitled to enjoy life. But that's not a fair comparison. And I think also when we compare about weights and in body, you always have to think about comparing at the same time of week, the following week, at the same time of day as well. Because again, if you do Monday morning, or if say you did Monday morning, yes. Or actually, let's do Sunday night versus Friday morning. The whole weekday you've been quote good, and it's the morning, so you slept. And then Sunday night, it's been a heavy weekend. You've consumed more than you would have desired. That's 2 different points right there. So you could be 5-10 pounds different. That's all I want to say with that. It's you have to make the comparisons fair. So.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, you could very well gain weight by working out if you overeat and just not modify it properly, and you may gain weight because you are building lean mass. I mean, it could be it where the number may go up a little bit, which is why we always stress that looking at the scale constantly isn't the biggest thing, because you're going to get discouraged.
Absolutely,
you're going to get
no,
discouraged.
absolutely.
100%. Yeah. All right, well, let's wrap this one up. Make sure to look up our pages, thetrainerfeed.com, on Spotify, YouTube, Instagram. Slide into these DMs.
Let's do it.
If you have any questions, please let us know. And don't forget to use our code, thetrainerfeed, at Roan for all your swag. Roan has great workout.
Yes. Thanks for listening. We appreciate it.
Bye, guys.
See you. Peace.